A pyramid, floating in the void, just appeared on a distant planet. Not resting. Not anchored. Suspended like some cosmic hallucination, casting shadows where there's nothing to hold them. And the stars behind it? They bend like light itself is being manipulated, like gravity forgot the rules. Scientists at NASA thought they'd seen strange with Ceres. But this is something else entirely. Back when they looked at Ceres, it seemed unremarkable, a cold, potato-shaped rock just hanging in the belt. Gray. Silent. Harmless. The kind of place no one expected to surprise them. But then the Dawn spacecraft crept closer. And what it saw flipped the entire narrative. A triangle. Perfect. Sure. Massive. 3 miles high and floating, not planted. Not even touching the ground. Like it was placed there, intentionally, by something that knew what it was doing. Something that wanted to be seen. And this wasn't some random pile of rocks. The structure had precision. It had form. It had presence. It looked like geometry carved into silence. A triangle that didn't crumble, didn't decay, didn't hide. Instead, it stood tall, sharp-edged, defiant against the void. As if waiting. But then it got stranger. Inside one of the massive craters nearby, something shimmered. Bright, glaring points of light. Not just one or two, but a pattern. Reflective spots that looked almost artificial, almost decorative. Like someone, or something, had arranged them just so. Scientists first guessed salt. Maybe ice. But the intensity, the clarity, it didn't match. It was too polished. Too purposeful. NASA brought out their high-tech gadgets. An infrared mapping spectrometer designed to read the surface like a fingerprint. Every mineral has a unique light signature, and this device was supposed to solve the mystery. But it didn't. Nothing matched. No known element or surface combination explained what was glowing back at them. It was like nature had tossed out the rulebook and made something completely new. Then came the shadows. Not just in craters but around the triangle itself. At certain angles, shadows moved where there shouldn't be movement. Forms stretched and twisted across open space, flickering with the planet's slow, deliberate spin. Some scientists called it a trick of the light. Others weren't so sure. These shadows didn't behave. They pulsed. They flickered. They reacted. The more Dawn orbited, the weirder it got. Craters appeared inside other craters like nesting dolls. Some had sharp central peaks that weren't supposed to be there. Normally, central peaks form on massive impacts with a planet's crust rebounding. But these were too frequent, too sharp, too numerous. It wasn't just chaos, it was a pattern. And patterns don't lie. Carol Raymond, leading NASA's mission scientists, admitted they weren't prepared for this level of complexity. Ceres was supposed to be a relic. A fossil of the early solar system. Instead, it looked alive. Not in the biological sense. But alive in history. In geology. In energy. The pyramid wasn't a fluke. It was the centerpiece of a mystery. Around its base, strange ridges and mounds spiraled outward. Perfectly aligned in odd geometric arcs. Not just erosion. Not random. More like foundations. Supports. Like the structure needed anchoring but rejected physical contact. As if it levitated by design but remembered once having feet. And then there's how Ceres behaves. It doesn't spin like a dead moon. It rotates with a kind of pulse. The reflective spots shine like a strobe with every turn. And that's not normal. It's not just light bouncing, it's light interacting. Almost like those spots are sending something. Or absorbing something. As Dawn stayed in orbit, they prepared to dive lower, down to just 900 miles above the surface. Close enough to see textures. Details. Cracks. Maybe even signs of construction. Because now, more voices at NASA were whispering a word they weren't allowed to say aloud. What if the pyramid wasn't just a natural fluke? What if it was built? Not by humans. Not by us. But by someone? Something? That idea, terrifying as it was, began to gain traction. Because the deeper they scanned, the fewer natural explanations made sense. Ceres began to feel less like a planet and more like a vault. It wasn't just the shape of the triangle. It was its resistance to erosion. Its sharpness. Its persistence. Even the ground beneath it seemed unnatural. Some scans showed slight energy readings, vibrations, beneath the crust. Not earthquakes. Not movement. Just hums. Like a machine in deep slumber. Waiting. The team started mapping ages of surface features. Some looked billions of years old. Others looked young. Fresh. As if the planet had been resurfaced. Rebuilt. Scraped and restarted. It didn't match any known planetary evolution. It was like time had fractured. Different events leaving traces from different epochs. And always circling back to that triangle. But Ceres wasn't done. Because just when everyone thought the weirdness was limited to our own backyard, something else happened. Farther away, on a planet beyond our solar system, another triangle appeared. An exoplanet. Quiet. Distant. Unimportant until now. The kind of planet scientists monitor while sipping coffee and filing routine reports. But this time a pyramid appeared there too. And not on the surface. Floating. Again. The new object was massive. Razor-edged. Suspended above a cloud-choked surface with no foundation, no crater, no origin point. It didn't shimmer like ice. It didn't flicker like a mirage. It stood still. Bolt. Watching. At first, everyone assumed it was a glitch. An error in transmission. Maybe a lens flare. But the more images came in, the clearer it became. It was real. And worse, it was repeating the same geometric precision seen on Ceres. Multiple observatories caught it. Different angles. Different light. And in every frame, the triangle held form. A floating monolith in defiance of gravity. And then came the impossible part. The object cast a shadow, on air. That shouldn't be possible. But it happened. Scientists double-checked. Triple-checked. The pyramid's presence warped the atmosphere below it. Not through heat or radiation. But through gravity? Pressure? No one knows. It was as if the object was pressing down on reality itself without touching anything. Some researchers joked that reality was glitching. But under the jokes was unease. Because now, two separate planets, light years apart, had shown the same impossible structure. With the same defiance of gravity. The same eerie silence. And neither planet offered any clue as to why. NASA's top minds tried every analysis. Radar. Heat mapping. Frequency scans. Nothing. The structure gave off no energy. No signal. It just existed. Like a message carved into the cosmos. A warning. A relic. Or a puzzle waiting to be solved. And the deeper you look, the less it feels like a coincidence. Because pyramids don't just build themselves. They don't float. They don't align perfectly. They don't cast shadows in open space. Unless someone, or something, wanted them to. Maybe it's just cosmic geometry. A trick of chaos that fooled us twice. Or maybe, it's the start of something bigger. And the question now isn't what the pyramid is. It's who put it there. And what happens when the third one appears. Because if there's a third, then it's not a fluke. It's a pattern. A design. A signal sent across space and time, like a cosmic breadcrumb trail left by a mind far older, far stranger than ours. 3 points form a triangle. And in ancient cultures, ours included, the triangle meant something. Stability. Power. Divinity. In the myths of Egypt, Mesopotamia, even the Mayans, pyramids weren't just structures. They were bridges. Between earth and sky. Life and death. Matter and spirit. So what if these floating pyramids aren't symbols, but tools? Gateways? Anchors for something bigger than we can understand? What if they're not here to be found, but to awaken? Because maybe they've always been here. Waiting. And now that we've noticed, maybe that was the point all along. Total silence surrounded the pyramid, but somehow that silence made the whole situation feel louder, like a scream you can't hear but still feel in your chest. And as bizarre as the floating pyramid was, it wasn't the only strange thing happening on that exoplanet. The weather patterns defied logic. Clouds didn't drift the way we'd expect. They twisted into spirals, looping in on themselves like they were caught in some invisible whirlpool. The wind didn't blow straight, it curved, bent, and circled. Even the ground wasn't behaving. Some areas glowed without any visible heat source. The whole planet felt like it was putting on a show, and the pyramid? It was clearly the star performer. That idea has kept scientists awake at night. If this pyramid was built by a now extinct alien race, the questions pile up fast. How did it survive untouched? Why is it hovering with no visible support? And the timing, why now? Why did it only appear after we finally developed the tech powerful enough to spot it? That can't be a coincidence, can it? Just when we have the eyes to see clearly, this thing shows up as if on cue. That's the kind of detail that doesn't sit right with anyone paying attention. And just when things seemed maxed out on strange, another twist hit. Instruments began picking up tiny flashes of light from inside the pyramid. These pulses weren't random, they came at perfect intervals, soft and subtle, like a distant heartbeat. Tick, tick, tick. Not strong enough to light up a room, but regular enough that they couldn't be dismissed. Scientists ran diagnostics, cleaned lenses, checked every possible technical error. It wasn't equipment failure. The signal was real. The pulses were real. Something was inside the pyramid doing something. It was rhythmic, deliberate. and undeniably alive, or at least automated. In follow-up scans, another shape appeared nearby, smaller, less defined, but definitely artificial. It wasn't natural and it wasn't there before. Just like that, the lonely pyramid wasn't so lonely anymore. Now, it was leading what looked like a small fleet. Whether these objects were monuments, machines, or something else entirely, nobody knew. But the tone shifted fast, from curiosity to dread. Scientists stopped wondering if the pyramid was strange, and started wondering if we were ready to deal with whatever came next. Even conspiracy theorists were running out of theories. This wasn't a grainy UFO video or swamp gas. This was math. Clean lines. Cold geometry. And it was floating above a nameless planet like it owned the place. It got even weirder when researchers realized where the pyramid was floating. That region of space had been surveyed years ago and marked as completely unremarkable, quiet, boring, uneventful. Now it was anything but. Scientists rushed to reanalyze old data, combing through every pixel, every spectrum. Had they missed something? Was the pyramid always there, somehow cloaked? Or had it moved? That second idea hit hard. If it moved, then it's mobile. And if it's mobile, then it can go anywhere, including closer. That possibility changed the conversation fast. Because now, it wasn't just a question of what the pyramid was. It was a question of whether it was coming here. Talk began to circulate in hushed voices about whether this meant we were being watched. Not in a sci-fi movie-style way, but in a cold, unsettling, maybe we were never alone sort of way. And the pyramid? It said nothing. It floated. It pulsed. It cast shadows where no shadows should be. Whatever it was, it wasn't explaining itself. And that silence? It spoke volumes. Then came the ripple effects. Literally. Other telescopes monitoring nearby star systems started experiencing glitches. Instruments recorded strange noise in the data, static, irregular dips in light, odd distortions. It wasn't random. It had structure. A beat. A rhythm. Like someone was tapping out Morse code into the fabric of space. One observatory reported something even stranger. Stars behind the pyramid dimmed more than expected, bending light in ways that exceeded the limits of gravity. That shouldn't happen. Gravity can bend light, yes, but not like this. It suggested the pyramid wasn't just sitting there. It was doing something. Something we couldn't name yet. This raised red flags. And wild ideas. Some fringe scientists theorized it might be a dimensional anchor. Something that keeps parts of space stable like a cosmic pin holding reality in place. Others said it might be a tombstone. Not for a single alien but for a civilization. A grave marker you could see across light years. And if that was the case, it might not be broadcasting signals. It might be broadcasting warnings. Maybe we were never meant to find it. Maybe we just got too curious. Despite all the theories, one fact held steady: the pyramid hadn't changed. It didn't decay. It didn't move. No scratches, no erosion, no shifting in space. It just was, like it had always been there and always would be. That permanence spooked people. Some who stared at it too long began to feel it staring back. An emptiness. A gaze. The kind that unsettles you for reasons you can't explain. Then the situation escalated. More pyramids started appearing. Not all at once. Not in the same place. But gradually, subtly. One on another planet. Then another. Each with slightly different proportions. Some bigger. Some tilted at odd angles. But all floating. All impossible. And all clearly intentional. That was the moment people stopped calling this a glitch. Something, or someone, was placing these shapes into our line of sight and they weren't bothering to hide it anymore. This pattern forced a shift in thinking. Maybe the pyramids weren't anomalies. Maybe they were messages. Maybe we were meant to see them. And maybe their timing wasn't random at all. Earth is loud right now. Satellites, lights, signals flying in every direction. Maybe someone or something finally decided to respond. Not with a voice but with a presence. Every telescope turned toward these planets. Every analyst started combing through old data, rechecking light dips once thought to be dust clouds or instrumental quirks. But what if those weren't just noise? What if they were pyramids? Hidden. Waiting. Through it all, the pyramids remained still. Silent. Unmoved by time, gravity, or weather. They didn't react. They didn't break. They didn't explain. They just existed, like puzzles dropped into the universe by a hand we can't see. At a certain point, people stopped asking what they were. They started asking who they were meant for. Were they messages to us? Or did we just stumble upon something meant for someone else? A cosmic invitation? Or leftovers from a party we were never invited to? Some believe this is the slow drip of disclosure, That these pyramids are step one in a long reveal. That we're being watched, tested, observed. Not for our science but for our behavior. How we respond. If we panic, we fight each other. If we listen, it's not about the pyramids. It's about us, and what we do next. So here's the question nobody wants to answer. What if they're not just watching? What if they're waiting?